let's talk now directly to young people that are looking at you and admiring what you've done.
Yep.
Young people want to get into business and see you as a role model.
Yep.
What advice would you give to them in terms of how to get into business, things to do and things not to do?
Okay, what not to do is to give up. There is a huge barriers into starting a business in Zimbabwe right now. Trying to just get your business papers is a hassle in itself. So don't give up. You're going to there has to be some tenacity. There has to be some I don't take no for an answer to keep pushing. The second thing is the grass is not always green on the other side. The grass is greenest when it's watered. So really put a lot of energy and time into what you want to do. And generally speaking, those results will show for themselves.
Well, somebody's going to say, you're saying I shouldn't give up, but I have not even started. How do I start, Kuda? How do I start?
We started with no money. I want to be honest. A few days before my daughter was born, we started with no cash, and we started on a promise. If you give us your money, we will deliver you a box of vegetables. And I think because the first 10 people trusted us enough to give us their money and we delivered that box, they then told 10 people and they then told 10 people. So there is a huge conversation about how do you get funding? How do you get people to invest in your business? And it's a difficult question in Zimbabwe. Every single funder who has approached us, the first thing they tell us is incorporate in Mauritius. That's the first thing they'll say to you. Zimbabwe has somewhat become a persona non grata on these international funding stages. So you rarely get the kind of funding you'll need for the big dreams that you have. We're almost going to have to start where we can and build up from there. Anyone says, Kuda, how do I get funding? The answer generally is it's going to be very, very, very hard. What can you use right now in your arsenal that can get you to where you need to get? I mean, you have access right now to phones more powerful than the ones that sent men to the moon. You have access to a country that's been forced into digital payments more than anywhere else in the world. You have platforms that are open source and free like WhatsApp, which you can send messages to vast amounts of people and market your product well and tell a story well. Let's start there, and I believe we can build some great companies from there.
So I've started, you're saying I shouldn't give up, but I am battling, I'm tempted to give up. What is it that you've held on to that has made you keep going?
Nzara. Hunger is a very important thing. And seeing that your children can be hungry, and seeing that you can be hungry, and seeing that your family can be hungry. It's a very important thing. Never, ever get complacent. Never get lazy. You almost have to want this more than anybody else because you know that your life depends on it. And I can't say this enough. It sounds like a cliche, but this is exactly what it takes. It takes you to be tenacious and aggressive and always push forward and always push yourself to be a better person and always push yourself to be a better business. Push your box to be a better box. Push your service to be a better service. And the customers are not fools. It's weird how when people order from us for the first time, the first message is, wow. It came, I didn't have any problems. Or someone makes a complaint, they're like, wow, I made a complaint, it was acknowledged, there was an apology, and there was a satisfactory result in the end of that complaint. And I think Zimbabwe is wide open for this. Customer service, taking care of your customers, giving your customers value, all that is wide open. Because for many years, that has been not available in this environment.
I can confirm that I ordered a box from you. Mm-hmm. It didn't arrive on time, but I made a call. It came soon after that. Wonderful. The experience was wow.
Wonderful.
The service industry in this country sucks.
Yes.
So clearly you have a road wide open for you.
For anybody who's going to give a superior service and delight customers is going to do very well in this current Zimbabwe, because we're now far more exposed. We all watch the same movies, we watch the same soapies and so forth, and we see how things are. We're more traveled. So anyone who's going to give people the best service in this country right now has a great opportunity to actually then succeed. I strongly believe this, because people are so shocked that they gotta please and a thank you sometimes, and that's really weird. In all these other countries, it's like everyone is really polite and everyone really tries to serve you well. But in Zimbabwe, the customers sometimes were not prime because it was pretty much a seller's market. I think let's get back to this time when the customer is king, As we say, the customer's prime. And I strongly believe we have a lot of potential for anybody. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Just move on to something that you are passionate about, philanthropy.
Yes, sir.
You're 41 and you're already into philanthropy. Fascinating stuff. You are helping young kids who can't get university fees to go to university. You are donating vegetables to old and homeless people. Where does that come from, and what's been the experience so far?
Again, I'm going to take it back to my parents' faith, in the sense that always give back and you will receive. Give and you shall receive. With the university students, I was gobsmacked that young people are failing to get, young doctors with 25 points are failing to go to school because failing to raise $120 US. I just thought that was really crazy, considering that I've seen friends spend that on bottles of whiskey. So by taking to social media, it's not me per se, it's literally just using a following to generate interest and show people that, guys, if you think about it, it's $120. If 5 of us put in $30, it's done, right? And I think it was...
But that's important in itself.
Of course.
How many young people have you helped?
We're now at 25 young people with the hashtag Fresh Futures, who, with random strangers, have helped other random strangers get their dream to actually fill in their positions at UZ, paid their accommodation, given them blankets and food. And you'll be amazed at the amount of, and it's like we're in these groups. We formed the Guardian groups on WhatsApp for each one of these students. And only people who are donating or caring for that student are in that particular group. And you can donate, put your receipts in there, so there's some sort of accountability. And if you need to leave, you leave. But generally speaking, you're just saying, I'm dedicating myself to be in this group for the time this child is in university. I tell you, I've never met some of these people. I've met some of them. I met like Shepard, who came from UK with a bunch of laptops for a lot of girl students. But I'd never met him before that. We've just met online. So
Twitter. You're tapping into the philanthropy that exists among Zimbabwe?
Amongst all of us, absolutely. We don't have a big GoFundMe in Zimbabwe, but what we did find is that with Twitter and WhatsApp matching the two, we almost could have done more.
Are you looking at formalizing this?
I hope so. And there's people smarter than me and people who are greater than me at this, who have been sort of trying to help set up the trust and assist in how do we actually make this something that's far more sustainable, without taking away the spontaneity and the serendipity in which people are meeting. And because in these groups now, people are building up great relationships. People are, as guardians, with ladies taking care of the younger ladies, making for their personal hygiene issues every month. Some people have now decided to even help families. Like one of my students, Anon Ziranga, who was in Murewa, he was one of the vendors in Murewa, our first student. His mom depended on him vending as a breadwinner. And one of the people in the group were like, yo, why don't I send mom 150 RTGS a month? You see, so there's all these spontaneous human combustions of empathy and love.
And it's because you started it, Kuda?
Well, I could have started and no one cared. It's because I maybe sparked a flame. My dad taught me this song in Australia. What
does that mean?
Just give me a spark, right? You need a spark, right? And a little bit of kindling, right? But the wood is vastly available already. So to start a big fire, you don't really need much. You just need a little spark. And I think maybe I was the little spark in the Fresh Futures Twitter philanthropy gig that we did. I was the spark, and maybe a couple of guys put on the huskwa. But the Zimbabweans by themselves are the hunis, and of course, they make this huge bonfire. And they've paid. I mean, it's impossible to imagine one person doing what these gardens have done for these young people now.
Your beautiful singing now has just reminded me that somebody should ask me, say it on Twitter, that I should ask you, when are you coming back to hip hop again?
I'm 40. No one wants to hear a 40-year-old rapper. I'm very passionate about music. I love music. I'm still very much involved with a lot of young artists and stuff. I believe there's a time when I got too politically involved and I started poisoning some of the careers of the artists I was working with. If you listen to a song like Junior Brown's Tongo God, great record, got him off radio, and I think I decided that, look, sometimes it's better to let the youngsters be youngsters. So we've got a lot of young people we're working with still. The studio is still available. A lot of young people still come through.
So the answer is you will get back to hip hop.
Well, I'm still there, but I'm trying not to poison the well, so to speak, and let the youngsters be young.
Interesting that you're talking about youngsters. You're 40. I'm not going to disclose my age, but there's a lot of people that look at me as very old, and clearly at 40, some people see you as old, although I see you as young. There's something happening in this country, Kuda, which I want you to address, and that is that the young are looking, and the young, I'm talking about 18 to 30, 40, 35, thereabouts, who are looking at people like you and I as old people who don't quite get them.
Yep.
And it's becoming toxic in a way, sort of saying, get out of the way, we want to do this ourselves. What's your response to that? You don't get them? I don't get them? What do we do? Don't we need each other, the old and the young?
No, absolutely, we need each other. I discovered just how out of touch I am with my 14-year-old son, who thinks Designer is the best rapper ever. I'm like, have you never heard of Tupac? What happens is that maybe there's a lack of listening to each other, and I'm guilty of it. I'm complicit in this, in the sense that there's a time when I was just shouting at the elders, saying, "You don't get it, Madara Mimi, you're bad," and so forth. And you fail to sometimes understand where they're coming from also. And then because you're shouting, it's harder for them to listen anyway. Everyone gets entrenched in their egos, and then we go nowhere. So you're absolutely right, and I believe that there's an opportunity for us as a nation to start listening to each other a little bit more.
How is it going to happen, Kuda?
A miracle.
A miracle.
It's going to take a miracle.
So you're saying this is going to be a tall order? Where we are, it's a terrible space. Is that what you're saying?
You obviously be familiar with what's happening in Britain with Brexit, what's happening with Trump and the Build the Wall campaigns and the Me Too's, and there's a whole lot of division right now in the world in general. I think we're purely just a macrocosm of what's happening in the world as far as people being divided, right? And we've been here before the Second World War, we've been here before. And it ended up in 14, 15 million people dying. And I think if we don't learn lessons from history, guys, we're heading in the same direction. And I'm hoping that there's enough wisdom amongst the young, the old, to see that we do not want to repeat history. We don't want to go into situations where we're Rwanda and slaughtering each other on the street because one believes in this and one believes in Chinja, and one, it can easily get to a very bad
How
space.
do we find each other? How do we get to that miracle space, Kuda?
We have to do more of this, and I think this talking is extremely important. You and I have never agreed on everything, but generally I think our dialogue has been respectful, and sometimes I might rant to you on WhatsApp and then you give me a calm response and I'm like, okay, I see your point. And I think through that we can gain empathy for each other and we can gain understanding for each other. The toxicity, which I agree I've been absolutely complicit in, is this quick firing of unthought out things.
I hear I hear repentance from there. Is something happened?
I may slip up again, but I'm saying, we get on these Twitters and we're faceless and we're nameless and we can call each other names and we can fight and we can do all these things. And it's because sometimes we don't see the repercussions. Well, America is now seeing the repercussions. Britain is now experiencing the repercussions. When we start seeing people dying on the streets in South Africa, we're starting to see the repercussions of this behavior. And I believe that as history can teach us, we have an opportunity as all cross generations to stop, really understand what could happen, and start to engage and, like I said, find each other, sympathize, and understand where we're all coming from. And that way, I believe we can build a much greater nation. The nation of poking each other's eye out, we're going to be blind, and we're not going to be able to see where we're going.
So the toxicity that's out there, your success has tended to attract some of that toxicity, the negativity, the abuse, and so forth. What has it done to you? Does it sting? How do you deal with it?
Look, I always tell people about the digital citizens and the digital immigrants. I happen to be more of a digital citizen, So I understand the space. I don't take it as personally as people believe. You see, the kid who is trolling you online, when they see you, they will ask for a selfie. It's the weirdest dichotomy. Yeah, you can shout each other online about, you're an idiot, you're a CCC and all these kind of things. But when they see you in public, it's now handshakes and smiles and jokes. So I think because I'm a digital citizen, I get it a bit more than maybe, say, my dad who will be reading and thinking, my God, these guys are saying they want to kill you. Like, no, it doesn't really want to kill me.
So you're saying there's a Kuda who is on social media and there's a Kuda walking the streets of Harare. Is that reality? We are
no, you know,
not bipolar, but
No, you generally get the same person with me. But I do get that there's people who are very shy in normal life or very polite in normal life. But when they have this veneer and this mask of anonymity or distance and proximity, it's easier to say certain things than it. For example, find me your worst ED critic right now and then put him in the same room as ED and see how he behaves. Does that person then F you? Does he fight with him? Or does he say, but Mdara, how does it, sometimes interpersonal relationships change because you're together. When you're divided and you have these devices that can shield you from, you can block people and all these kind of things. People are more free to say what they want. So I think I'm far more forgiving. And I think, I've seen your timeline too. If you let everything get to you, Trevor, you would have hung yourself. We have to take it for what it is as well and understand this new space that exists.
You are outspoken. You speak out for what you believe. You fight for what you believe.
Yeah.
You've had an exchange right now with one of the biggest brains in this country, EcoCash.
Yeah.
Where is that conversation going?
Look, I think just to make things clear, I'm a huge customer of EcoCash, right? On a daily basis, thousands and thousands of dollars are transacted, whether it's our website or through our merchant with EcoCash. A great relationship with the team. They were at our offices 2 days ago discussing further how can we push technology further in different directions. I've known Kuma Dag for many years. He was an elder at my daddy's church. So I don't have a particular problem with EcoCash as the brand. I had a particular problem with the fact that this ubiquitous service, which is now a utility in this country, first of all, can outage before a mother pays for a child at Paranyatwa and there's no recourse. I have a particular problem with the fact that your newspapers are $8 according to you, but they're actually $11.20 according to EcoCash. And I have a problem with the fact that their agents earn commission on the arbitrage. So in saying that, as a customer, the CEO decided to start calling me names online. And I think it was a missed opportunity to actually engage and say, the 2 occasions we've met in person, trying to talk to her about it, saying there's a lot of things you can do because you're almost bigger than, in fact, they're bigger than Zesa. They are a utility now. We can no longer consider them just a fringe money service in Zimbabwe. They are a utility. We depend on them for our lunches. We depend on them for our school fees. We depend on them for our shopping. And there's a weekend when they were out with those outages and people died. It's just a sad reality, right? So we need them to be far more responsible. We need them to be far more understanding of the power that they now have as one of the biggest monopolies in the country, a ubiquitous utility, in the sense that they need to be functioning and operating, understanding that if we allow our currency to become a quasi-currency with a higher percentage rate, it's going to actually affect Kuda's farm workers who now refuse EcoCash because they can't buy flour at the growth point in Heathcliff. They just refuse it. Because as soon as I take this money to here, they'll take 40% and I can't buy my goods. And there's a responsibility to that when you call people your agents and you know their behavior.
So the problem is the agents. Is that what you're telling us here?
Absolutely. But also the complicity of a CEO who I've spoken to twice about it, who I've spoken to online about it, and understands that. But then because the profits are so high, it's something that they turn a blind eye to. They'll say the burden is on the customers to report these rogue agents. I can make your job very easy, darling. All of them
should be.
Yeah, stop all of them for now, because it's actually become a quasi-currency, right? And it's not like a bank where the teller doesn't get a commission on whether they give me my money or not. Either they have it or they don't. They don't get a commission on cashing out, but they've actually incentivized arbitrage. And that's a big problem with me, because if you allow big institutions, big ubiquitous institutions to do that, then why can't ZESA? Why can't Zinwa? Why can't any big utility do that now and start just hyping? Say, okay, now we have water vendors at every side of the road, and these water vendors can now tap you on or tap you off, and they demand 40% extra, and we'll give them a commission for that 40% extra. I want them to understand that you are no longer.
Are you making progress in that conversation?
I hope so. I mean, look, none of the people we've reported have been stopped. But I believe that, they're posting up a bit more messages about it and so forth. But I believe that until this is sorted out, then we have to, as a Zimbabwean people, agree that we have the US dollar, we have the RTGS dollar, and we have the EcoCash dollar. And if this is formalized, then we all understand and we can all pay each other accordingly.
How much public support do you have for as far as this issue is concerned? Are you seeing people rallying around?
Well, look, if I was to do a case lawsuit right now, I would easily get 100,000 people with me, right? Because it affects every, I get knocked around a lot about civil servants and pays and all this kind of stuff. But I'm telling you now, the biggest people affected are people who need to cash out every day to get a combi. So if you ask me, Trevor, how much is a combi today? It's $1. No, it's not. It's $1.40. That's the fact.
If you're paying via EcoCash.
If you're paying via EcoCash. To where we live, up near Headcliff, it's now $5. But with EcoCash, at 40%. It's unsustainable. Everyone's being paid electronically right now. And we've agreed there's no money in the system. How is that agent cashing in? How does he have money? How has he done $15,000 worth of cash out transactions today? Did he cash in? Where did he get the money from? These are important questions. I believe money should be banked. I believe things should be linked to ATMs. I believe you put computers in charge of things, you can remove human cleverness and arbitrage. It will just make life easier for all of us, because I struggle. We shouldn't be fighting about this as a country, but then it's a big issue. And I think if I lend my voice to it, because I have a slight following, it helps. And I think every time I make noise about it, a new poster goes up, and that helps.
So I see you with your kids, with your wife, in the shade with tomatoes and stuff. You busy, you're getting up early in the morning and that kind of stuff. How does Kuda relax? What's your mode of relaxation?
That's a good question. There hasn't been much time recently to relax. The farm project is non-stop. We don't have electricity like most of Zimbabweans for 18 hours a day. So with electronic pumps, you have to be up at when they do come back to move aluminium pipes and move and turn on drip irrigation, whatever. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Fortunately, I do work with my wife, and I get my other kids every 2 weeks. So to relax, generally speaking, it's the farm has been a blessing in the sense that there's no network. So you can keep off your phone, you can keep off Twitter, and you have those moments when there's no ZESA to have lunch with your family. And that's what we do.
How is the weight loss program going? I saw you decided we're going to lose weight. How is that going?
It's going great. I've lost a bunch. I was way too fat. I think at my peak I was at 135 kgs. I let go of myself like most people. I was eating terribly. And in the industry I am now, the one thing that is full in my fridge is vegetables. And I think it forced me to see myself in a much different way. Now look, I'm now 117 or so, 115, 117 kgs. It's a huge amount of weight loss. I feel it in my bones, Trevor, that I'm not as heavy as I used to be. I'm never going to go back to Prince Edward Rugby playing weight, but I do believe that, to try and live a bit longer, because like I said, I'm starting again at 40 and I've got a young baby right now. I needed to look after myself better. So the weight loss was just a way of me, trying to stop my sleep apnea and snoring whilst I was awake. Like right now I'll be going, because I was so fat. It helps me get a bit more active on the farm. There's a lot of walking involved now. And it also helped me feel a bit healthier, just as, mind, body and soul. I actually feel better. I'm less of an angry bastard than I used to be.
That's good. Kuda Musasiwa, thank you so much for coming on In Conversation with Trevor. You are an amazing inspiration, and we wish you the best, and we hope in another 5 years or even 2 years, we're going to sit down and see how far your dreams have come true. Thank you so much.
Well done on this.
Thank you.
So much,
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Don't want to miss out on these insightful conversations? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.